I'm Andrew. I'm a developer on the ExoPlayer team. If you're not aware of what ExoPlayer is, it's an open source media playback library for Android. So today I want to tell you very quickly about some work that we've done to improve client-side video ad insertion. So we knew that video ad insertion was an important use case of our users. And when we started to look at this, we became aware of two kind of approaches that were very common. So one approach was that you would create a player and you would have an ad SDK that would look at the player position and it would tell you when an ad needed to be played. It would provide you with the URL of the ad, and then you would get your player instance and say, stop playing the content, instead play this ad. That's not ideal because at the point where you tell it the ad URL, the player now needs to start buffering from the beginning of that media. And then your users are going to see a rebuffering spinner, and this may make them quite unhappy. So there's another approach that we saw, which is where applications would have two players. They would use one of the players for playing the content, and then when they get the ad URL in advance of the ad queue point, they would load that ad using a player in the background, not visible to the user, and then they would, when they reached the position of the ad, they would swap them over and start showing the ad. So one of the issues with this is that it's quite complex to implement. It's easy to get it wrong. Also, as you start loading the ad, then your resource usage kind of spikes, and this is not very good for particularly low-end devices with not very much RAM. And another problem that's kind of Android-specific, I guess, is that on older Android versions, using multiple codecs concurrently can be very problematic. I don't know if people have experienced that, but you can cause issues like cause video playback to be broken until the device is rebooted. So both of these two common approaches were quite problematic. How did we solve this? Well, when we were looking at this, we'd recently added support for seamless playback of playlists to ExoPlayer. So we created an ad loader interface, and you can implement this in your application to tell the player as soon as ad URLs become available, and then the player will seamlessly load them, and it will have a consistent buffer all the way during playback. You don't get spiking resource usage, you don't have problems with having multiple codecs, and there's no rebuffering. So if you're doing client-side ad insertion with ExoPlayer, please have a look at the ad loader. And that's the end of my talk. Thank you.